Welcome to Learning with UNP. In this session of Business Intelligence with Power BI, we will explore one of the most essential aspects of data analysis, date and time functions. When working with datasets, we often deal with dates and times, whether it's transaction dates, order dates, delivery dates, or even customer birth dates. Analyzing date and time values properly allows us to track trends over time, calculate differences, group data by periods, and generate meaningful reports. To help us perform these tasks efficiently, Power BI provides various date and time functions, which allows us to create, extract, and manipulate date values with ease. For this session, we will use the Maven Market dataset along with a date table. But what is a date table? A date table is a dedicated table that contains a continuous range of dates, allowing for accurate time-based analysis. Before we dive into the functions, let's first understand why date and time functions are important. When working with business data, we often need to answer questions like how many sales happened in each year, month, or day? What was the last day of the month for a given date? How many days have passed since a transaction or customer's birth date? What is today's date and time compared to other date? On which day of the week did the most sales happen? All these insights require date and time functions to extract, manipulate, and calculate meaningful values. Now, let's have a look at the key date and time functions we will be covering today. Date, year, month, day function, end of month function, DATEDIFF function, now today function, weekday weeknum function. Now let's go through each function one by one, understand what they do, and see how we can apply them with practical examples. Before we begin with the functions, let me show you something. Currently we are in the report view. Let's go to the table view. If you can see here, we have a date table already created. In this table, we have a column named value, which stores date in day, month, year, and time format. We will implement our date and time functions using this value column from the date table. But let's rename this value column as date column for better understanding. Hit enter. Let's begin with the date function. The date function helps us create a valid date by combining three separate values: year, month, and day. This is useful when our dataset stores these values separately and we need to merge them into a proper date format. Since we already have date column in this format, we need not use this function as of now. Next, we have three simple but very useful functions: year, month, and day. Year. It extracts the year from a date. Month. It extracts the month from a date. Day. It extracts the day from a date. These functions help where we need to analyze transactions by year, month, or day separately. Since we are extracting values, we need to create new columns for year, month, and day. Here is how we do it. Click on date table, click on new column. Let's name this column as year. Equals to type year. Here is the function, hit tab and type date. Here we have the date column from date table. Hit tab, close bracket, enter. It extracted the year from the date. Now let's create month column. Click on date table, click on new column. Let's name this column as month. Equals to type month. Here is the function, hit tab, type date and search for the date column from date table. Here is the date column from date table. Hit tab, close the bracket, enter. It extracted the month from date. Now let's create day column. Click on date table, click on new column. Let's name this column as day. Type day. Here is the function, hit tab, type date. Here is the column, hit tab, close the bracket, hit enter. This column extracted the day from a date. Now, these columns store the year, month, and day for each date in our date table. The next function is EOMONTH, that is end of month function. End of month function is very useful when we want to find the last day of a month for a given date. This is particularly helpful for financial reporting where we often need to know when a month ends or when we need to identify the last day of the billing period. Since this value is specific to each row, we create a new column for this. Here is how we do it. Click on the date table, Click on new column. Let's name this column as end of month, that is EOMONTH. Equals to type EOMONTH. Here is the function, hit tab. As you can see here, EOMONTH function has two parameters, start date and months. Start date, the initial date which must be entered in a date format. Months, the number of months before or after the start date. The start date can be entered using the date function or as the result of other formula or functions. The month parameter can be a positive or negative number. A positive number returns a future date, while a negative number returns a past date. If 0 is entered for months, the EOMONTH function will return the last day of the same month as the start date. So let's now type date. Here is the date column, hit tab, comma, let's type 0. Close the bracket, hit enter. So EOMONTH function extracted the last day of the current month for each date. Now let's move on to the DATEDIFF function, which is used to calculate the difference between two dates. DATEDIFF function is useful for tracking how long it took for an order to be delivered, the number of days between two transactions, the duration between the order date and today's date. If we want to calculate this dynamically based on selected dates, we create a measure. If we want it to be stored for each row, we create a new column. Let's say we want to calculate the age of customers, so we will implement this in customers table. Let me click on customers table. Since this value is specific to each row, we create a new column in customers table. Click on new column. Let's name this column as customer age. Equals to, let's type DATEDIFF. Here is the function, hit tab. The parameters of DATEDIFF function are here. Date 1, the starting date to calculate the difference from. This is a required parameter. Date 2, the ending date to calculate the difference to. This is also a required parameter. Interval, the unit of time to calculate the difference in. This is also a required parameter. Since we want to calculate the age using birth date, let's type birth date. Here is the column, hit tab, comma. Now let's type today. Hit tab, comma. Let's type year now. Here is the function, hit tab, close the bracket, hit enter. Now let me explain what this formula is doing. This part of the formula selects the birth date column from the customers table. Today function returns today's date. This part of the formula calculates the difference in years, giving us the customer's age. If you can see here, a column is created named customer age, giving us the age of the customer. Now let's move on to the next functions. They are now and today functions. These functions help us get the current date and time. Now function returns both the current date and time. Today function returns only the current date without time. Since these values change dynamically, we create a measure for this. Click on date table. Click on new measure. Let's name this measure as now. Equals to, let's type now. Here is the function, hit tab, hit enter. If you can see here, now measure is created. In the same way, let's create today measure. Click on date table. Click on new measure. Let's name this measure as today. Type today. Here is the function, hit tab, hit enter. If you can see here, today measure is created. Now let's visualize the values of now and today in the report view. Let's go to report view. Let's take a number card. Drag now measure and put in the number card. Arrange it properly. Let's take another number card. Drag today measure over here. As you can see here, now function returned both the current date and current time, whereas today function returned only the current date without time. Now let's discuss about weekday and weeknum functions. Weekday function tells us which day of the week or date falls on, whereas weeknum function gives us the week number of the year. Since we are extracting values, we create new columns for these functions. Let's go to table view. Click on date table. Click on new column. Let's name this column as weekday. Equals to type weekday. Here is the function, hit tab. The parameters of weekday function are here. Date. It is a required argument that specifies the date for which you want to find the day of the week. The date can be a cell reference, a function that returns a date or a number. Type. An optional argument that specifies the numbering system to use. The default value is 1, which counts days starting with Sunday. Other values for type include 2 and 3, which count days starting from Monday. Let's type date. Here is the date column. hit tab, close the bracket, hit enter. Now let's create week number column. Click on date table, click on new column. Let's name this column as weeknum equals to type weeknum. Here is the function hit tab. The parameters of weeknum function are date, a date within the week. Date should be entered by using the date function or as results of other formula or functions. Return type is an option argument, a number that determines on which day the week begins. The default value is 1. Now let's type date. Here is the column, hit tab, close the bracket, hit enter. As you can see here, both weekday and weeknum columns are created by giving us required values. These two functions, they are weekday and week number functions, helps in identifying peak sales days and tracking weekly trends. To summarize today's session, so far we have covered date function. It is used to create valid dates. Year, month, day functions. They are used for extracting parts of a date. End of month function. It is used to find the last day of a month. DATEDIFF function. It is used to calculate date differences. Now and today functions. They are used for getting the current date and time. Weekday and weeknum functions. They are used for weekly analysis. These functions allow us to analyze, group and compare time-based data, making our reports more actionable. Click Ctrl S to save the result. This is all about today's lecture. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.